Well, hey, if you're watching this later, thank you for watching. We are just hanging out today, doing some Discord streaming. Alex has a really cool thing that he's going to show us
Shenanigans.
today. Discord shenanigans. Alex has a really cool thing. So Next.js made this, had this conference announcement. They're doing the Next.js Conf, and they had this really cool page, and we were talking about it in Discord. And Alex was like, "Hey, I love that kind of stuff. I know how to make that." And we're like, "You're gonna show us then." And so he is showing us today. So, without any further ado, Alex, take it away. Work your magic.
So here is the Next.js Conf screen, and I don't know what's going on with this guy here. That's really interesting and exciting that they've got all that going around. Whatever. Anyway, you can see there's a bunch of cursors all moving around, and this is happening over the network at 30 frames a second. We can open up our network tab and see that it's doing this replicache pull fetch 30 times a second. And this has all of the information needed in order to display all of the users and their location on the cursor and any messages that they're sending. Um, and that's really cool. Replicache is the service that lets them do this, and that's fine and dandy and all. But we can do it ourselves, and we will even do it serverless, entirely serverless, using Cloudflare workers and Cloudflare durable objects, which we'll get into in just a bit. Um, Before we do that, I want to show you all of the stuff that I have prerequisite, everything that I've already taken care of. So here I have a CodePen that has that same cursor. I actually just stole the CSS from the Next.js website, put my face in there, and took care of the JavaScript for moving the mouse around. So there's just a mouse move event listener that I've added that grabs the client X and client Y position and applies a transform to this element. And I tried to add some mouse leave logic to make it so that if you leave, that gets rid of your cursor, but I couldn't figure that out. So we can just delete this actually. I am going to be adjusting this just a little bit to make it so that the uh, position of the cursor is transformed regardless of the screen size. So we're going to be normalizing it from 0 to 1 and then extrapolating that to whatever the viewer's screen size is so that people can move their mouse around wherever, see everybody's mouse. Okay. For anybody that doesn't know, Cloudflare is a company that runs on the internet. It runs the internet. It has a whole bunch of data centers and tons of traffic goes through Cloudflare. They have a service called Workers, a product called Workers, which lets you run JavaScript on the edge, which means at one of their CDN locations. It's a serverless function. These workers are serverless functions. They're a little bit different from other runtimes like AWS Lambda or Google Cloud Functions or whatever, but you can think of them as just serverless functions from Cloudflare. But durable objects is a new feature that's currently in beta that they've just added, which uh, basically makes your serverless functions, your Cloudflare workers, stateful. It lets you store state and have it. I don't know. It's complicated to describe. It says here, manage state with low latency coordination and consistent real-time storage of your workers. Chan just posted a link to the Cloudflare durable objects documentation, which goes into much greater depth of what they actually are and what they do. The cool thing about this, though, is it means that you can have stateful interactions, which means WebSockets. Okay, WebSockets are a browser technology that lets the server send messages to clients instead of the client sending messages to the server and getting a response back. So you can have two-way bidirectional communication between the clients and the server, which is necessary for anything real-time, unless you're doing polling, like what the Next.js Conf website is doing, because you want to be able to get updates when they happen from any connected clients. There are a lot of ways that this could go wrong. And so I'm going to outline the plan for this project using Excalibur. So we have our client here, We'll say that the client is blue, and then we have our server here. We'll say that the server is red. And basically what's going to happen is every time the cursor moves on the client, it's going to send a message to the server. In fact, I can link those. I'm still getting used to ScalaDraw. I don't use it a whole lot, but there we go. So cool. And then whenever a message comes in from the client, the server is going to take that message and send it to any other connected clients. So, whoops. So here's another connected client. And so basically any messages coming in from any of the clients gets broadcast to all of the other clients. Now we want to do this in an efficient way. The way that I have it is it's just it's just grabbing all of the cursor movements. I have no idea how fast that actually happens, what frame rate that is. In order for animations and movements to be smooth, it needs to be at 60 frames a second. But that's a lot of traffic going over the network. And we don't want to, A, have our traffic be bogged down, and B, pay a lot of money for a lot of redundant messages, when all that we really need to do is get snapshots in time and interpolate between those snapshots in order to get nice, smooth movement. So instead of sending every single cursor movement event, we'll only send cursor movement events, say, every 10 times a second. We'll throttle our cursor movements, and for that, I just have a throttle function that I'm going to be bringing in. And then the server will broadcast that out. That means that at very least, we're going to have 10 frames a second being sent out to the clients. Now, if we have multiple clients sending messages at 10 frames a second, it's entirely possible that those clients will be sending on different intervals. So it's possible that we could still be sending, if the server's just relaying every message that it gets, we could still be sending more than 10 frames a second to every single client, which basically makes us so that we have the same problem as the number of clients that are connected grows. So in order to solve that, we're going to have just a little buffer. I'm going to have the buffer indicated by a circle. We're going to have a buffer that keeps track of all messages that have been sent within the last 10 or 100 milliseconds. So that we have that 10 frames a second. And then the server itself is going to have its own timer where it sends messages out to everybody else at that 10 frames a second interval. Now, I keep saying server, but that's not the case here. This isn't a server that we're talking about. It's a durable object. As we remember, durable objects are stateful, serverless functions. Basically, we have this bit of state that still exists after our serverless function is over. And it can continue to do stuff in the background. So the scope of what we're doing today is everything here, excluding this buffer. We're not going to have it be optimized for this particular situation. We're just going to add our throttle on the client side, and the server's just going to relay the messages out. But if we have enough time, I will add this in so that it can arguably scale to an infinite number of clients and not have problems, which would be really cool. Other ways that we could implement this to make it so that it works a bit better is by creating multiple rooms. So we just duplicate this over again, and then we have a room down here that does its thing and a room up here that does its thing that are completely separate. And that would definitely allow us to scale infinitely. We just add more rooms. But I'm not going to do that either. We're just going to have a single room that everybody connects to. Okay, I'm going to be starting out with this Cloudflare WebSocket template. So I'm going to not copy that. I'm going to grab Git here, come over to my terminal. And on my desktop, I'm just going to git clone this. Oh, it's already there. I want to start from fresh, so I'm going to delete it and clone it again. Go into WebSocket template and open it up in Visual Studio Code. I hope everyone's okay. I'm going to be swiping back and forth, so apologies if you don't like the swipiness. So let's just look at this really quick just to see what we've got. In package.json, we only have prettier as a dev dependency. Everything else is dependency-less, which is great. It also doesn't have any scripts. This entirely depends on the Wrangler tool, which is Cloudflare's tool for interacting with Cloudflare workers. So let me just bump up the size here. I'm going to run Wrangler without any arguments. You can figure out how to install this online. Just look up Wrangler Cloudflare and you'll find it. So these are all of the commands that we can run. Today, I'm going to be using the dev command to start a local server for developing, a preview command that lets us preview on cloudflareworkers.com, which I think you should be able to use. Maybe, maybe not. And then publish, which actually publishes to Cloudflare. And that's when you'll definitely be able to play around with it at that point. For right now, though, I'm just going to run Wrangler dev. While that's getting up and running, it's going to install dependencies, and then it gives me a warning. It says it's forbidden. We can't actually do this. The reason for that is because of the wrangler.toml config. In order to use any Cloudflare functions, you have to link it with your account. So I'm going to come over here to workers. This is my account ID. Please don't do wicked things with it. I don't know if there are wicked things that you can do with it, but don't do wicked things with it. Paste that in, and now I can run Wrangler dev, and it should actually get up and running. There. So it says it's listening on port 8787. We'll open that up. And this is the default program that it has. This has created a WebSocket connection, but I'm only able to interact with my own WebSocket connection. I can only send messages back to myself. So I click me. Oh, that's not working. I think it's a Safari issue, actually. It's having this OS status error. So let me see if that works better in Chrome. Nope, it's not working in Chrome. So that's the reason why I said we would try using Wrangler Preview. What this does is it actually bundles up my code, sends it up to the cloud, and runs it on cloudflareworkers.com on Cloudflare. So now, here, I can click this message, and you can see the WebSocket data that's being sent. It has the timestamp. It also has the count. And every time I click, it adds to that. I can send an unknown message, which triggers an error. And then I can close the connection when I'm done. And now I can't make any more connections. So very simple functionality there. To supplement this, because I don't know what I'm doing, I've never done anything with durable objects before, but we're going to be looking at the Doom worker source code. So I don't know if any of you saw silentSpaceMarine.com, which is Doom running in WebAssembly in the browser with multiplayer using WebSockets and durable objects. So again, it's not just Doom multiplayer with an authoritative server. It's running in serverless, which is totally bizarre and wild. So awesome. And this is the code that they use for that, okay? We'll take a look at this code and bring parts of it in just as a reference. But let's come back over to our existing code and see how it works. So I want to look at index.js, and I'm just going to close this. So we have our count, which is being stored here just as a global variable. So for the duration of this particular Cloudflare worker, as long as it's up, we'll have this count here available. But as soon as the Cloudflare worker decides that it's done, that state is going to be gone. We have to instantiate ourselves with a durable object if we want it to actually last any longer. Right here is where the magic starts, this fetch event listener. Cloudflare Workers is based on the, somebody help me, Service Workers API. So we add the event listener for fetch, and then any requests that come in are going to be handled by this request handler down here that we pass the event.request to. So let's go to handle request down here. This takes our request, checks the URL. If the path name is /, then it's going to return our template. And if we look at the template, it is a response object that has this template HTML here. So this is where we're going to be defining the HTML that we use on the client side. And it would be nice if this actually was formatted, but we get what we get. We'll make sure that it's working properly as we edit everything. But for right now, that's the code that's going to be sent when we navigate to get the HTML for the page and all of the JavaScript and everything. And then we have /ws, which is the WebSocket request. That's going to return the WebSocket handler. And if we go somewhere else, then it gives us a 404. So let's look at the WebSocket handler. For WebSockets to work, we have to request an upgrade from HTTP to the WebSocket protocol. So that's what happens here. We're checking to see if we're requesting an upgrade. And if it throws an error if we aren't requesting an upgrade. And then we use a special Cloudflare workers thing to create a new WebSocket pair. This creates a WebSocket that stays on our worker that serves as the WebSocket server. We can use that to send messages from the worker to the client. And then we have the client as well that we return in the response as the WebSocket. So that way the client has access to that WebSocket and can send messages. If we come back to our template, I'm actually going to pull the template out into an HTML file just so that we have syntax highlighting because it's driving me crazy. And then before we upload it, I'll paste this HTML into the template here. So we're creating a WebSocket here, and we have this WebSocket function that we're calling with our URL. So we create the URL, and we immediately call this WebSocket function with the URL, which is just current location /ws, like we saw it was expecting. It uses the built-in WebSocket constructor to create that WebSocket. We add an event listener for when it opens. We add an event listener for any messages that come in. So this is where we're going to be receiving messages about other people's pointers. We have an event listener for when we close. And then finally, down here, we have our send handler, send method, that we can call in order to send data from our WebSocket back to the server. So that's where we're going to be sending any messages about our cursor. So actually, I want to poll the class and ask how we want to handle getting messages to and from the clients. We have two options. One is we send a message to the server saying, this is where my cursor is. And the server acts as a relay and sends that message to all of the other clients. What's nice about this is we're only sending messages when somebody's moving their cursor, and we can have a whole lot of clients, but we are going to be sending a lot of messages as people move around. And I talked about how we could address that, but another way that we could do it is we just have the server store the state of everybody's cursors and send that state out to all of the clients on an interval. So everybody is getting all of the state all at once. I'm happy to do it either way. I just want to know what people would prefer to see. A relay or sending the state. This is where people can respond.
Which one are you more like excited about? Or like, is it more of like a time
I'm excited
constraint?
about both of them. No, I think I could implement both in the same period of time.
Okay. Anyone have any thoughts?
I'm excited about both of them. I think if you just want me to pick one, I would pick the relay because I think that's going to give us the greatest scale, the greatest flexibility.
Okay.
We can still store the state on the server. And when someone first connects, they get the state of everybody's cursor so that they know where everybody currently is. So we'll have a little bit of both.
Yeah, I like
with that. Unless there are any objections, that's what I'm going to go with. The server's going to relay messages. So let's start with our client. I'm just going to write all of the client code right now, and then we'll write the server to follow that implementation. So we're going to do exactly what happens here already. When it opens, we're going to send a message to the server asking for the state. So we're going to say ws.send, And I'm going to send, our WebSocket can send binary data, it can send strings. So I need to stringify some JSON. So I'm going to say JSON.stringify. We're going to have our message have a type, and the type is going to be get state. And that's it. We're just sending a message to the server saying, hey, send me the current state. Okay. Then when we get our message, we're going to parse it. And when we parse it, it's going to have a type, and then it's going to have other properties as well. So we'll just say other here. This is where if I was doing this in TypeScript, I would use a discriminating union to differentiate each of the messages based on the type. But since we're not doing this in TypeScript, I'm not going to do that. So we'll say switch type. And for any situations where the type is got state, which is the message coming back from the server, we're going to do something with that state. In our case, it's going to be creating cursors and placing them where they're supposed to go. So create cursors, place them. For right now, we're just going to console.log other. And then I can get rid of the rest of this. I suppose if there's an error, we can, no. We won't worry about error handling. This is just for fun. There is another message that's going to come through, case cursors moved. And in this case, we're going to move each of the cursors and say that for got state, other is going to have a state property. It's going to be the state of all of the cursors. And then here, this is actually not going to be the cursors themselves, just the cursors that have moved. So maybe to make this more clear, I'll call it moved cursors. Okay. When the WebSocket closes, we don't have to worry about anything on our end for what we're doing. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And that's actually it for what we're doing, just the basic level. We just need to get the current state, populate our cursors, and then when a cursor moves, we just need to move the appropriate DOM element. Okay, so we can get rid of this, we can get rid of that, and get rid of that, rid of that, that, rid of that. Ah, ha, ha. We got rid of so much JavaScript. Okay, now I'm going to copy and paste from our CodePen. So where did that go? Here it is.
I like the
So
slow
I'm going to
slides,
add
by
my
the
mouse
way.
move down here. Slow slides? Is it faster for everybody else? I don't know.
No, and look, it's nice. It's very very kind of you.
Oh, okay. I will try and be slow. Yes. Okay, so
It might
for
maybe
our
it's just
mouse move.
sorry, I was gonna say maybe it's just Discord latency, but it looked like you were doing it intentionally. So
Okay, I will try to do it intentionally. So for our purposes, we are still going to move our cursor. Our cursor is going to be special. Because we want to make sure that when we move our cursor, there's no latency. So I'm still going to keep this behavior exactly the same, but I'm also going to add a ws.send method. The type is going to be cursor moved. That's the type. And I need to JSON stringify this. That. And then we need to give it the X and the Y location. And we don't need to send the ID because the worker is going to know the ID of the client that sent it already. So the X is going to be position.x. And then we want to divide this by the width of the entire screen so that it's normalized from 0 to 1. So window.inner width. Do the same thing with X or with Y. Position.y divided by window.inner width. Then when we place our cursor later, we're going to multiply that 0 to 1 value by the width of that person's screen so that the cursor is in the correct position.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It's not going to be like a 1-to-1 matching. It's going to be distorted, but that way you can see all of the cursors at the same time. You can't have some cursors that fly off the screen. You don't know where they are. Water break and posture check. Okay. That's what happens when we move our mouse. Then we need to create methods for adding. Oh, hang on. I just remembered. We need to have something for when a cursor is removed. Case cursor removed.
This would be
And
like when someone like leaves the page.
exactly. Other ID. Okay. So it's going to send an ID, and we just have to find that DOM element and remove it from the DOM. Okay, let's create a function for creating a cursor. Actually, let's copy over some more code really quick. We've got, this would be so much easier with the front-end framework, but we're just going to have to deal with it. So I can delete all of this. All of this right here is my cursor. And I think, I don't know what to do about the avatar right now, so we're just going to have it be, we're just going to have it all be the same image. Actually, that's boring.
A veritable army of
Splash.it.
Alexes.
Yes, exactly. Okay, if you haven't ever used unsplash.it, it just gives you a random image from Unsplash with whatever dimensions that you provide it. So here, 50 by 50 pixel image from Unsplash. I have no idea what that is, but works great. Yeah, I wish that I could duplicate more of this SVG, for example. Can I just make it an image? I don't know if I can make it host easily. Okay. We're just going to do this gross way. It's going to be gross. I can't wait. Cursor template equals. Oh, except this has to go. I can't use tag template. Ah, gross. Because this has to go inside the tag template literals inside of this template.js. I'd have to escape all of my
All of your
templating.
stuff.
In fact, here, even this right here has to be escaped like that for it to work properly. Gross, gross, gross.
Hey,
How am I
wait,
going to
real
solve
quick.
this?
Show me
I don't know.
the
We'll
tag
just deal
template
with it.
literal
It'll
escaping.
work out. We'll solve that problem later. So cursor template equals that, like that. And then I need to put in some kind of unique identifier, which I can use to recognize this place in the ID and replace it later. So I'm just going to use 3 dollar signs, and that's what I'm going to use to put in the ID when necessary. I'm not going to worry about the transform style right now because we're going to take care of that later. Everything else should be just fine. Everybody's going to be kind of purple. Yeah, jQuery.
Alex, one thing you can do if you don't want to have to escape all those strings is you could install FS and read from the HTML file, and then.
But I can't because we're in a worker.
Oh.
Not in a node environment.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So there are ways that I could like put this into let's see if we come back over here. There's KV, which is a key value pair storage, which is actually, it can hold a butt ton of data, and it's what Cloudflare Workers uses for their Pages product to store static assets. I'm not going to deal with that right now because I don't know how to use it. So we're just going to do it terrible old school way, and people can figure out how to do it better later. Good thought, but not
Makes
possible in
sense.
this environment. Okay. Yep. Yeah, there are limitations to this, which it's both good and bad. Node is awesome, but also kind of very large. Okay. I'm going slower than I expected, so we might have to do a part 2 where I implement the server. But for right now, I'm going to say function create cursor. It needs to take in an ID, an X, and a Y value. And we're going to generate this HTML. So I'm going to say document. Actually, yeah, I'm actually just going to get rid of that there. What am I thinking? Document dot create element. It's going to be a div. And then I want to show you a really cool trick. So const cursor I hope this works. In fact, I need to double check that it works really quick. So document.create element, make a div, but then we wrap it in object.assign. And if we were to assign inner HTML to this, it's like that. And we'll say that it has a p tag inside of it. Hey, except that needs to be a string. Then what this does is it assigns all of the attributes to our element in one go without us having to do several lines of it. And that should give us a div with a p tag inside. It worked. I'm so happy. Okay. So we'll wrap this in object.assign. Here, we'll have our inner HTML, which is going to be the cursor template, like that. And then we'll also give it the ID. And then we can apply our style as well. But, oh gosh, I forget how raw HTML styles work. This is what I get for living in React all the time. So dot transform, and yeah, so I just set it like that. So I can say style transform, and this is going to be where we convert the X and the Y back into our screen space coordinates. So translate, I think we'll just do a regular translate. Say X times window dot, times window dot inner width pixels. And then Y times window dot inner height pixels, like that. And that should translate it properly and put it in the correct position when it is initially created. And then I guess all I've got to do at this point is just add the cursor to the DOM. So I'm going to say document dot query selector. We'll say that all of our cursors live inside of a div with the ID of cursors. That. Come down here and close off that div. And instead of query selector, I'll use get element by ID cursors dot append cursor. And that should create our cursor. Oh, I don't want to get pull. I want to format document. There we go. Okay, so now that we've created the cursor, let's create a function for removing the cursor by the ID. All that we have to do is just do document dot get element by ID, pass in the ID, and then remove, and that should remove it from the DOM. Finally, function move cursor, ID, X, and Y, and we'll do something very similar to what we did up here, where we'll just set the style equal to this. So I guess I don't need this object, just need that string. And that should move the cursor. Okay. Now I just have to wire everything up. So up here, instead of console.logging, boring, I'll still console.log just so that we can see it. But what we're going to do is loop over our state. So other.state. The TypeScript developer in me wants to make sure this is good. So I'm going to say if array.isArray other.state. See, fun fact about TypeScript, you actually don't know, you don't need to know or use TypeScript if you know all of the ways that TypeScript makes you write type-safe code. So, fun fact. If it is an array, then we can loop over it. So I'm going to say other.state.forEach, or I could use reduce here, but then Twitter would tell me that I need to use a for of loop cursor. We'll say that each cursor is just an object with an ID, an X, and a Y. So that means that we can just call. In fact, I'm just going to do this. Yep, we pass the entire cursor to it. So we'll say create cursor, cursor, just like that. Then for cursors moved, we do exactly the same thing. Stefan posted in Discord with Steve Rogers saying, I understood that reference because there's some Twitter drama recently about stuff. Okay, what did we say? Moved cursors. So moved cursors like that. And instead of calling create cursor, we'll call move cursor, pass in the cursor that moved. And then for cursors removed, just say remove cursor, then pass in other.id. And that's it. The front end is done. Oh, wait, I need the CSS. Here. There's not a lot, just a little bit. 48 lines. I'm actually going to make a few small adjustments to the CSS a little bit later, but for right now, we will just stick with what we have here. And we'll get rid of that. And now I can take all of this and put it into our template.js and then escape as necessary. So anywhere where we see color, that is wrong. Got to escape that, and escape that, and escape that, and that. I hope that this actually works. In fact, I need to test it. In this case, I'm just going to use my node REPL and say string equals that. And it comes out the way that I expected it. Perfect. Yep. Sometimes I don't trust myself. That's probably a good thing. And almost done. And that's it. Okay, so now I should be able to run. Oh, let me get out of my node REPL. I'll run Wrangler Preview again. This is going to, again, package everything up, send me to cloudflareworkers.com, and woo, there we are. There's my cursor. And it is, let's see. I should do this in Chrome because it tells me that I should do it in Chrome. So I'm just going to close all of those, close that, open up Chrome, and paste this in. And there we are. And it should be complaining. Oh, no, it's not complaining. Let's look at the network tab. It should be complaining because things are not working the way that they should be working. But yeah, why is it not complaining about the WebSocket not working correctly? I don't know. Okay. Just to make it so that this is a little bit easier to debug, I'm going to come back in here to our template. Got our log that's being logged here. And for any message that comes in, I'm just going to console.log the data so that we can see it just for development purposes. And then I can Wrangler preview that again. And that should open up in just a second. Maybe. Nope. There's an error. Oh. Did I break it? It just worked a second ago. That I accidentally put some text somewhere that it wasn't supposed to go. Okay. Try this one more time. Ooh, let me make sure that I have semicolon. Just in case. Sorry for all of you that don't like semicolons. Okay. I must have just accidentally put text somewhere that it wasn't supposed to be. So I'm going to copy this again and do that. And look at the console. I'm not getting anything on the console. I don't know what's going on. So we're just going to roll with it. It's working the way that it's supposed to. It's also not working the way that it's not supposed to. Or rather, it's not working the way that it's not supposed to. So that's a little concerning, but we'll deal with that later. Let's come back to our code and actually write our worker. And for this, we're going to come back to our index.js. We have our WebSocket Handler that takes the request. It handles the session for the server, which is where the server handles any requests that come in. And it returns this new response. So handle session is where all of the magic is going to happen. First thing that happens is we accept our WebSocket. We have a close listener. This close listener is what I'm going to use to tell everybody else that the WebSocket is closed. And then this is our message handler here. So I'm going to pull index.html over here to the side, just so that we can double check and make sure that we get all of the messages that are supposed to come through. Pretty sure we only send one message, and that is get state. Yes.send. Oh, we also send cursor moved. So those are the two messages that need to be handled. I'm going to, data is a string, so I'm going to parse it. JSON.parse data. TypeScriptian in me wants me to make sure that's good, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's fine. We're going to switch parsed.type. And there are two things. Case cursor moved. And we'll do stuff with that. And then break. I just realized I didn't add break statements to my index.html. Is that going to cause a problem? Yeah, that's going to cause a problem. I need to add break statements.
Always got a break.
Always got a break.
Unless you return, then you don't have
Or
to.
TypeScript helps me. That's true. That's an implicit break. Okay, we're back here. We need a case for, I can't remember what it was that I used, get state. And then we'll handle this with our durable object that we're going to create right now. So, cool thing about durable objects is that they are just, bump that up. They are just classes, just regular old classes that are just hanging out and doing stuff. So I'm going to actually copy this router class, and we're just going to adjust it the way that we need to, like so. I'm going to paste it in right here. Close that so we have a little bit more space. And then we'll look at what this router is doing. In fact, I need to take a step back and make sure that I'm doing everything else right, because this follows a similar pattern as everything else. Up here is where we handle our API request. Go to that. Handle API request is down here. We get our request that's passed in. And it's going to, the durable object is what is doing the durable object is what is handling the fetch requests. If we come down here to the durable object dot fetch, it gets the request. It decides where people go. It handles the WebSocket upgrade and stuff. So we're going to have to rearrange things a little bit so that it works with this durable object. Ooh, I might be in a little bit too deep because I'm having a hard time understanding what's going on. And I know I'm going really fast for everybody else, so you can't necessarily catch up. But the way that this works is when you sign in, you can create a room. Like, so again, this is the Doom example that we're looking at here. So when you can create a room, and the way that it works is it creates a router, or it creates a durable object specifically for that that room that you're creating. So what we want to do is create a durable object that is the room for everybody. We want to create a single durable object for everybody. And the way that we're going to do that is by creating a unique ID, but we're going to create that ID from a string. So these IDs are what identify durable objects and make it possible to identify the durable object. Cloudflare uses special algorithms to make it so that every single durable object has its own unique ID globally. So you're not going to clash with anybody across the entire world. But you can create IDs from a string. So here I have this ID from string, and I'm going to use a special string to represent our room. But there's more that I need to figure out here. So I probably should be just going to the docs, shouldn't I? From there, though, we can start sending messages to and from our durable object.
Is there something that you want me to kind of like hunt down in the docs while you're looking at the code?
That's a good question. No, I think I've got it handled. I suppose the only thing that I need to know, we create our class here and define our class and all of the methods that are on it here. And then we access that from env.router.whatever. I'm pretty sure that's just something that is implicit in durable objects. So I'm just going to make that assumption that when you create a class like this, that it just puts it onto this env object, and the env objects comes from our fetch handler up here. And that's where we access our durable object from. Okay. So
gotcha. Yeah, it does look like there's a env on the constructor there. Gets constructed with state and then end.
State. Yep. I hope this env actually exists on the fetch event handler, because this one does things a little bit differently. It does export default async fetch. You know what? Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll just change this around a little bit. So instead of using this add event listener API, we'll do it this way. Still want to do our handle request. But what I'm going to do is say handle request, and then also pass in env like that. Env here. And then what happens at that point, we have handle API request. It fetches the room, but in our case, we already know that the room is our durable object. We have check room. I have no idea what's going on with all of this. I think that's just some security bit to make sure that people can't do nefarious things.
Hell is other people's code, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Or in this case, Doom. Thanks for dropping by, Ben, and see you later. So what we're going to do instead is have a special ID for our durable object. So there's our ID. Our string is going to be React Podcast, just like that. And that's going to give us a unique ID that is always going to exist. It's always going to represent the same durable object, which is great. And then from there, we can get our durable object like this. And then I'm going to follow the same pattern that it's using and call router object.fetch with the path and the request. And then the path is going to be url.pathname. So url.pathname, just like that. Grab this again. Suppose I could also, use a try catch. So now our handle request is happening entirely inside of our durable object. In this fetch place. Oh, and fetch is just working with the request. Hang on. That's really confusing. When I call fetch on the durable object, it's only taking the request as a parameter. I don't get it.
Huh. That's interesting.
That is interesting, because you would think that this is the class instance. So I should be able to just pass request. So we'll just pass request and see what happens. Here, it's doing that exact same thing. It's doing some other weird stuff. I'm just going to do exactly the same stuff we were doing before. Except instead of calling WebSocket Handler, I'm actually going to call this.handle session like that, which does exactly the same things, but it does other stuff with our message. So what I'm going to do, we don't need the WebSocket handler anymore. And we can call handle server on our server again, actually. Wait, hang on. That's not right. Before we were calling WebSocket handler. Yeah, we still need the WebSocket handler. I'm going to put it inside of our durable object. This. It gets the request. Because all of that stuff was taken care of inside of the fetch before. But now I need to handle it here. This.handle session there. Okay, so all of that's taken care of. And now we've got our handle session here, which I'm actually going to have be this handle session function, because we don't need to worry about all of this. The only thing is we have access to our durable object inside of this. So here, what it's doing is putting all of the WebSocket objects that connect into the sessions storage here. And it just works exactly as you'd expect. That goes on the durable object, and it just stays there across all of the requests. So I think I can just paste that there. Don't need function. And now I have access to this. Although something wrong. Oh, deleted too many curly brackets. Don't need that URL there. Okay, now we can actually work on these messages that come in. So I'm going to come back over here really quick just to double check. We have our fetch. At some point, we're going to put the server into a session. And that happens here. I have no idea why it's putting the sessions inside of as part of this message shindig. But it's doing something weird, so I'm not entirely certain what's going on here.
That is super
For our
odd.
purposes, what we'll do is make it so that after... It is super odd. It's just the way that it's implemented for that particular Doom server. That was probably not the best place for me to be looking for inspiration, but that's okay. What we're going to do is just push onto our... well, actually, I'm going to make it so that sessions is an object, not an array. And we're going to generate an ID for each WebSocket here. For that, I'm going to use an ID generator function that I'm just going to steal from one of my other projects. So, nope, that's not what I wanted.
I love stealing from yourself. It's
Can't
like
find
one of my
any
favorite things about writing code is knowing that I'll just write that again, steal it later.
Absolutely. It's the best. I love stealing from myself. Sorry that we're going just a little bit over. Oh, I can pull this function entirely out. It's completely, yeah. Session ID equals generate ID. So this just generates a UUID using math.random, which is fine for our purposes. We're not going to have collisions anytime soon. But if you wanted to make sure that you didn't have any collisions whatsoever, you could do something. And then we're going to say this.sessions session ID equals WebSocket, just like that. Okay. Actually, I'm going to make it so that it's the WebSocket and the ID to make it so that it's a little bit easier for us to get the ID with a WebSocket. Well, whatever. We'll figure that out as we go. As the messages come in, we know which WebSocket it is. We have the ID right here. When the cursor is moved, it's sending hang on a second. Hang on a second. When the cursor is moved, we're just sending the X and the Y position. That's right. So for this, all that we have to do is create our object. We're going to have our ID, which is the session ID. We're going to have the X, which is parsed.x, and we're going to have the Y, which is parsed.y. And we also need to have the type, which is cursors moved. I'm apparently doing this the super lazy way. We're not throttling this, so please don't connect a whole bunch of clients and break it. That's mean. And then what we're going to do is loop over all of the sessions, the existing session, the existing WebSockets, and send the cursor moved to it. So I'm going to go, why not, for let yes of this dot sessions. I'm pretty sure I'm doing this right. WS should be a or should be this object here. So I should be able to go WS dot WebSocket or WebSocket dot send message, just like that. Got a JSON stringify it, but there's that. So that's what happens when the cursors are moved. We also need to store the state of each session. So we're going to initialize this with X is 0 and Y is 0, like that. We need to make sure that we put this, the X and the Y on the session whenever the cursor moves. So we're going to say this dot sessions session ID dot X equals parsed.x, and then parse.y and Y here. And then when we send the state, all that we have to do is just send our sessions with the WebSocket filtered out. So for that, I'm actually going to use object.values, this dot sessions, like that, map over it. Sorry, guys, I thought that I, turned do not disturb on for an hour, but the hour's over. Sorry, I'm going to keep going until Chan tells me to stop.
No,
we're so close.
You're doing
feel
great.
I mean, it might.
We're so close. If you have to drop, we're gonna record this, and so like, I mean, it is being recorded, and so we'll post it if you want to catch the rest of it later. But you have something to do. I'm just so invested in like you getting there because we're so close that
We really are so close.
So close.
And you could see as we go.
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, so I'm just doing a little destructuring trick here, pulling out everything except the WebSocket and putting it into our message. And I'm pretty sure that's what our template expected here. So we're creating the cursor. We're just passing the cursor object in, and the cursor object has an ID, an X, and a Y. Oop, I need to make that so that it's destructured as well. So that's all that we need to send. And then the message that we're sending is got state. And I'm still doing this totally wrong. That's okay. I'll go back and fix it in just a second. So then we're going to send the state just to the WebSocket that requested it. So WebSocket dot send JSON.stringify. The type is got state, and then the state is the value that we're sending, and that's going to be the message that we just barely created. Here, I'm putting the type in right there. That's not where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go here. And this is supposed to be moved cursors. See, this is where having TypeScript would be nice, because then we could define these types and then end-to-end type check. Am I right? So you can see where I work like all the time. Oh, no, that's wrong. Cursors moved, and then moved cursors. Also, I could just name things better, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. Am I missing anything? We have our message for the cursors moving. We have the get state. We need to make it so that when we close, we send a message saying that the cursor's been removed. So what we're going to do here is that exact same for let ws of this dot sessions, and then send a message that just has type as, let's see what the type is. Cursor removed. and then the ID as the session ID. So that should make it so that cursors get removed.
It is when you do this stuff, you have that like repetition. You notice how much you really wish you had like TypeScript when you have to, like when you're creating a type and then like needing to use it all over the place across files. You're like, man, this is a place that I would really like to have it.
So there's one more thing that I just realized. When new people come after somebody else has come, we need to have that added. We need to add their cursor. So we're going to say case cursor added like this. Don't forget to break. And then this is going to just be a single cursor that we get from other.cursor that we just create. So when people come in, we're going to create that cursor and then they can start moving around. It's probably going to throw all kinds of errors too, just as stuff happens. I did not like down here. Who knows if that even exists? Yeah, we're going to put that there. Do a little optional chaining. Oh, except you can't optional chain and assign at the same time. So I'm all over the place, but that's okay. Not L. Turn. Okay. And then here we can do optional chaining. Yes. And okay. So now when we add a new person, a new cursor, we need to send a message to all of the other cursors. Look at how short my attention span is, my brain span. I forgot cursors added, and then we just pass in the cursor. So that's the message that we're sending. Type cursor added, and then the cursor is ID, which is session ID, X0, Y0. And then this ID actually needs to be session ID. Woo! Okie dokie. Now I think we're done. I think that's everything. I think it's going to crash and burn the first time we try and run this just because that's the way that it always goes. Don't need to get started. Oh, crap. I don't even know what this.storage is, and I didn't do anything with it. Let's see. This.storage. Okay. They don't do anything with it either. So I think that we don't need to worry about it. Let's find out. I am going to just build this really quick with Wrangler build. And it has a problem. Apparently, you can't call message multiple times inside of a switch statement. Got to make sure that you wrap your switch statements in curly brackets. Got to have that protection. And it built successfully. Okay. Only 3 kilobytes. Teeny tiny. Then let's see if I can run Wrangler Preview. Just see what happens. That's not what I expected at all.
Of all the things I expected, that was low on the list.
Yeah. Oh, well, here's the documentation, finally. Okay.
So why is it building just that HTML?
I don't understand the question.
Well, it's just build. Sorry, it just
No
looked like
event handlers registered. So I still need to have this add event listener for the fetch. Oh, I know why. It's because the router is being used in another. It's being exported. That's not special syntax. That's just me being an idiot. Okay, it's not here in the script. Site? Yeah. Handle event. Request asset. Okay. Yeah, I'm not crazy. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. I thought that I was doing it wrong, but apparently I was doing it right. But where does the env variable come from? I don't even know. Wrangler router. Give me just a second to figure things out. I wish that I could talk through this just a little bit better. What? They're using Node? That's not allowed. You're not allowed to use Node. That's just for testing. That's just for testing. No worries. Everything's fine. But how to piece all of this together? Because I don't see where it's importing that router from. Oh, interesting. Look at that. That's the way that they're publishing it. That's how you tell them that they have that this is the durable object. Let's take a closer look at that router.toml. Ah, that's where they bind it together. Ha, so we've got to update our router.toml. Put that there, and then uploading some stuff. We've got the router dir. The main is index.mjs. It's a module.
I have to admit
That's the route.
The payoff there was actually really nice to kind of like see that, to have that pane and then see you find it in the wrangler.toml file.
Yeah, yeah. And then this is how we launch it. I still have no idea where the env comes from, but let's just see if I can find it really quick in here. We'll just look for all instances of fetch here. Router object.fetch. This is actually really cute. Assets./Carmack. They named it after John Carmack, who invented Doom. Okay, we're just gonna kind of wing it. I think that env is actually the global. I think that env is a global variable. I could be wrong. We'll find out. But that's not what I need. I need this add event listener here. And it is going to handle request. Event.request. And maybe that's actually where it comes from. Is it on the event? I don't know. We need to look at the actual documentation, I'm afraid. Let's just see if I can find env really quick. Nope, not there.
There's a doc. I had a doc earlier. If you, yeah, right in there.
Uh-huh. And it just is built in. This is just the way the durable objects are constructed.
Yep.
That's it. So I don't have to worry about env.
You don't have to worry
about
out
of here. Yeah, I don't. It's not even a thing. Oh, except down here. Holy crap, how do I get my router ID then later on? This is really silly of me to do it here inside of instantiating, communicating. There we go. Okay, this is where it happens. Ah, aha, aha. I have no idea. Oh, shoot. Okay, I need to have both the add event listener here and the export default here. Why? This is what gives me access to the env so that I can actually access my durable object. I think this will work. Nope. Nope. This is different. This is module syntax workers. I'm not using a module syntax worker. Go away. The env. Shoot, I don't know where it is. Should I just use a module syntax worker? Maybe I will. It's getting hot in this room because it's very enclosed, so starting to get tired. So we'll change that to MJS. If I come back here to my Doom worker, that's the way that it works as well. Just going to look at my Wrangler router to see if there's anything different. I'm using Webpackets using JavaScript. I think we should be fine. I'm just going to add this build upload to my wrangler.toml here. Format is modules. We aren't going to worry about there's the dir there. Perfect. Like that. Okay. Let's give this a shot. We're going to, crap. Point can't be found. Is that because there we go. So I got everything written up. I got the server coded, the worker rather. I managed to get it published, and now it's throwing an exception, which is what we expected because I didn't test it. I just was kind of writing it. So what we can do is look here, make another request, and just see if that will show up here and give us just a little bit of insight into what's going on. So here, I'm not seeing anything. Another cool thing about workers is you can give it cron triggers, which is nice.
Nice.
Actually, be happening. Yeah. But I'm on request, but I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure how to see any error messages. It says that I can see it from my Cloudflare workers. So let's just come back here. This is the workers place. Come here. But I don't know where to see those errors. And I'm not getting anything here because it's just all handled by Cloudflare. So this might be the end of the road. Which is okay. It's been fun. Lots of fun.
Super
just
fun.
Trying to figure things out. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. So there's a couple of things. I mean, before we close off, there were a couple of things that I wanted to, I guess, kind of like because there's a lot of new terminology and whatnot, and I wanted to, I guess, clarify some of that. So, there's a lot. Okay, so the big thing is like a lot of the things that we were working on so far is with Cloudflare and their like line of products, and it seems like in those we have Cloudflare workers, which are related to web workers in terms of like API, but they are kind of like a Cloudflare specific implementation of those.
Of service workers.
Sorry, yeah.
Slightly different than web workers.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for the clarification there. And then in that, so then we also, if we want to, we can use as a storage mechanism durable objects. Is that correct? Okay, cool. So durable objects are another product from Cloudflare that we can use as a mode of storage when we want to like retain data. And then that kind of has like its own like kind of globally unique ID that we can set from a string. and then we would kind of communicate into those objects using Cloudflare workers.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. All right.
And so durable, there's a lot more about durable objects that makes them cool.
Mm-hmm.
They live on the edge, which is all of Cloudflare's CDN services, servers, whatever. But they're globally unique, which means there's only ever one durable object that exists at a time. You can't instantiate. Well, you can instantiate multiple of the same kind of durable object, but for each ID of that durable object, there's only ever one of them. So the durable object actually moves across the world from place to place as it's needed. If you had a lot of traffic happening in North America, then it would be in the North America data centers. But then as the day progresses on and people go to sleep in North America, that durable object might move to Asia, where it is being used much more as people in Asia wake up, which is really fascinating. Just so fascinating the way that works out.
Super wild. Now, those durable objects, they can then communicate. Like if you wanted to put those on a more traditional type of storage, those can communicate then back to like I don't know, like let's say like a MySQL database or something. Is that
anything with HTTP?
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So that durable object can move around the world where it's needed, but then actually kind of like send, I don't know, like snapshots, I guess, of its state to a more like kind of traditional database.
Yes, if you wanted to.
Okay.
Durable objects themselves are durable. They are a database and they'll last forever. I mean,
okay. Cool.
Reasonably.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. So then we have, and then I think the other part of this is that we have Wrangler, which in my understanding, watching is kind of the CLI tool for working with a Cloudflare backed application. So there's a lot of things that
just for workers.
Okay, just for workers.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. So anytime we use Cloudflare workers, we're going to use Wrangler to actually kind of like orchestrate using that, like getting the preview and actually like connecting to Cloudflare. And that's kind of like all set up for us.
Correct.
It has like its own like CLI, and it's all ready to go anytime you want to actually interact with using Cloudflare workers. You can kind of, like you did at the beginning of this, clone that project, and it has kind of like a basic setup for you ready to go to get started, and then like from there build something more like tailored to the product you're making.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure there are Wrangler commands that create templates for you.
Oh, okay, cool.
And if you go to web workers examples here, there are all kinds of different things. So this one just returns HTML. You can fetch HTML or JSON. You can redirect. I'm actually thinking about setting up a web worker to handle authentication for a Jamstack website. So the idea is every single request hits the web worker. Web workers are really, really fast though. And if all that they have to do is just parse a jot and then decide whether somebody actually can see content or not, that's really quick. So that's the main use case that web workers were intended for. But Cloudflare's just kind of been making them even more impressive as time has gone on. So
do they have
look at that.
You got one.
Hang on, we're not done yet. We got one. Let's just see. Okay, so this is giving us that WebSocket network error again. So I think if I publish this, it's actually going to behave a bit better. That was Wrangler dev that I just ran. So that was on my local machine. Crap. We're uploading it again. And where's my cursor? There it is. There it is. Okay, let's see what this says. It says, we're having issues. It wasn't able to connect. It got a 200 response code instead of a 101 response code, which is what WebSockets expect. So somewhere in here, we are handling things incorrectly, probably in our fetch right here. We responded with a 200, which was likely returning the template, instead of responding with a 101 here. That's the 101 response there. But it's starting to actually work. So I think with a little bit more effort, I could get this actually working. At this point, it's basically just debugging, figuring out why things aren't behaving the way that they're supposed to, but all of the logic, the way that it's supposed to work, is all there. So once I get that taken care of, I'll post it in the React Podcast Discord. We can play around with it a bit and be like, oh, this is fun, blah, 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 and go from there. For right now, I'm just going to say we can call this good.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot. We've got it deployed. We just need to figure out all of those little tweaks. And yeah, I purposely wanted to make this so that it was an experience where I was learning as I went, just to kind of demonstrate the rough edges and the kinks and stuff that you have to figure out as you go through this. And obviously we found those. There are quite a few, but it's not impossible. We were able to figure it out. And this is a pretty nifty thing that we've built here that is almost done in an hour and a half. So
I love it.
Not bad at all. And the fact that it scales infinitely across the entire world, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's
so
nuts.
Thanks everyone for stopping by, and I will leave it to Chan to wrap everything up.
Well, hey, Alex, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate you kind of like diving into the deep on this Cloudflare stuff, because I think there's so many cool things that you can do, and I know it's like super daunting for me, and I more than anything, I was just really happy to see all of this come together and like start to slowly piece some of those kind of like terms and products that Cloudflare offers, and mapping them to actually like usable solutions. So thanks so much for that. And I think that it'll be kind of fun to maybe explore some more of this as we go on. I know there's a lot of people excited about Cloudflare. So if you kind of like take this further and there's something that you're super excited about, then let us know, share it, and share what you're working on. Yeah, that's it. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe for more. If you want to watch videos like this, join us at events.lunch.dev/discord to hang out and just join a bunch of really awesome folks learning and being curious about cool web stuff. So yeah, that's it. You're awesome. Alex, thank you so much. And we'll see you all around next time. Peace.